All right, welcome to week 8 of Super Craps Devlog. I have I'm done. I've completed the game. I wish I could say that. I've completed the all the bets on so the game as a crap simulator is working as intended. There are two things I got to get done. These two things are when you use the place here. Once you hit $25, actually you could do 20, you would normally go to a buy bet. In fact, the at most casinos, once you get to 25 bucks, they're going to say, "Do you just want to buy it?" And because you're going to get true odds if you buy, as opposed to place the 4 and the 10. You can also buy the 5 and 9, but even then, unless you're betting at like a $25 table, the payout doesn't make sense in terms of risk versus reward. Even then, 5 and 9 buying it doesn't really make sense. So you can really only see people buying the 4 and the 10. You can buy all the numbers, but uh, most places, once you hit 25, this would go to a buy bet on the 4. And so I haven't put that into the game yet, but it will be there in my next update. That's what the next thing I have to do is. And then the other thing I got to do is make it so you can turn the bets off. And I'll probably assign that to a hotkey. I have created hotkeys for all the rolling of the dice. So right now, if I press the number 4 on the keyboard, the point goes to 4. It lets me test things a lot easier. I should have did this from the start, to be honest. I just didn't think of it till I was testing the come and don't come bets. But they're both working now. So if I make a come bet and a 6-word roll, it goes to the 6. And then I can put my odds onto the come bet because it's essentially a pass line bet on the 6 now, even though I don't have one down here. So if the 6 were to hit, boom, you get paid just like you would on the pass line for that 6. And it collects as normal. If I were to hit this 4, it's going to pay out on the 4. Now, the last thing I got to do here is I have a problem with my code with my coroutines, and they are finishing slower than the script is running. So what's happening is the movement of the chips from the spawn point over to where it wins, that happens slower than the collection of the chips, and so it's screwing up. If I want to crash, it would crash the game. This invalid operation exception would definitely crash the game if I built it and made an executable file. Um, so I have to hunt this down. Nowhere to look. I just I could. There's a lot of ways to fix it, but I'm gonna have to go basically redo the animation code to account for the fact that the coroutine might not finish before the collection of the chips happens and fix that. So fun times. At least I know where to start. That's always half the battle is finding where you got to go to start it up. So also, let me get a point going. I got the 6. I can make a don't come bet. I'll make that go on the 4 there. Um, I can take down this 4. And I can put odds on my don't come bet. And same thing. If we were 7 out right now, I could get paid on the don't come. So that's working. The game's working. Aside for that little animation error, everything works like it should. The totem bets are done. All the one roll bets, they're there. The next thing is to get into the logging in of the website. So you can create an account. I'll make it so you can create an account in the game and link the account to the site. It's optional. If you want to jump in and do it, it will allow us to kind of the goal here is to release the game on itch and steam, and as people play it, we have a website that we can all log into to see how the different betting strategies are working. And so people can you can use a pre-made betting strategy like the Iron Cross or Split the Sisters, any of the ones that there's a bunch out there, but you can make your own or stick with ones that are already established. And then you can kind of log into the Super Craps website, and then you can see if there's going to be a how those bets are doing, like how the different strategies work out with different modifiers, and see what other people are doing with the game. I think that'll be really helpful if you're looking to look for strategies when you go to the actual casino that work better than others. None of them are foolproof. That's not going to be the case, but that's the next thing to do because that's a big part of it. That's probably a quarter of the game is just getting the web, uh, the the back end stuff working. So you have to make a login system. You have to make a system that uploads the data, and how often do you do that? How do you sync it to a strategy? Those kind of things. So I have to kind of big picture that out, and then start knocking the low end stuff in first. So I'll build out the WebSockets, I guess is how I'll do it, or I'll just send it as like a post to a website, like a REST API. That's probably how I'll do it. My background with the PHP and SQL is much better than like Node, so I'll probably try it that way first. I've done it in the past, so I have something to start from. But anyway, the game's done. Once I figure out this bug, hopefully by the time I post next week's video, I'll have something that I can upload to itch, and if you wanted to play it yourself, you could give it a shot. Other thing I want to do is get rid of these X's. I don't like that. It's too confusing, especially once you start putting a lot of bets in. It's too much. You end up canceling bets out and accidentally tapping it. It's just bad design. So I'm going to correct that, where if you left click, it makes a bet by a unit, and if you right click, it reduces the bet by a unit as you hover over the spot. And so that's what I'm going to do before I release it as like alpha 1 version of the game, and then I'll be on itch as a work in progress. So and then once it's ready for release, I'll make the Steam page and do that stuff. Getting the Steam game stuff set up is a pain in the ass. It just takes, there's so many forms to fill out and all that nonsense. It's just, I already have the itch account. I'll just use that. It's a lot easier. So anyway, that's where it is today. So I'm glad to have it finally finished, and you can just play craps if you wanted to, without a strategy or anything, or any way to log it. But in terms of paying out and doing what it's supposed to do, it's all working how it's supposed to. The other thing that's not coming through in these videos, as I noticed when I was watching back on YouTube, is the fluidity of the animations. So when it records on the Open Broadcast Studio that I use to record the screen, it records at 20 frames a second, but the game is really at 60, and everything runs really smoothly. So it's not an accurate representation of what the actual gameplay is. The gameplay is really fluid and quick. That's what I want it to be. I don't want it to take a long time for like the animations between different roles. And then the last thing I have to add in before I release is the real-time clock, because the game is intended to be used to like build up a strategy that you can take to casino, like the 1-3 times a year that I get to go. I want to have a strategy that I can play when I get to the casino. So what I want to do is have a second clock down here below, I guess where it says shooter. I'll find another spot to put it here on the playfield. That is a real-time clock. So all it is, it's if it was a real casino craps table and there's a full 16 people or 10 people, depending on the size, it takes a long time for the dealers to deal out the chips and put everything on the table between rolls. And you have people buying in and coloring up, and so there'll be a delay. So when you play the game, it's giving you an inaccurate kind of timeline, because you can just press the space bar every couple seconds and it rolls the dice. It's really unrealistic of how the game rolls and the pacing of it in a real casino. So down at the bottom, there'll be a real-time clock between rolls that kind of adds up how many hours or minutes it would take in real life to actually do the strategy you're doing. Because you can get a winning strategy in craps, that's for sure. But if it takes 11 hours to actually see the results of that strategy play out, then that's not really realistic. You're not actually going to play for 11 hours straight. So that's the kind of thing I have to put into the game. It'll help players understand how long it actually takes to kind of roll that strategy out in real time. So anyway, that's where I am right now in week number 8. So I will circle back hopefully next week with another update. And thanks for watching, and have a good day.